This is our pre-recorded commentary for Malevolent on Netflix. Get to timestamp 0 in 3, 2, 1, play. And if you're watching this after the fact, there will be reference to ads, but I am pausing the recording between each when ads start, so shouldn't be any issues there. So I didn't get a chance to do a lot of research on this because unfortunately Netflix movies don't have a lot of information available about the making of except for the Wikipedia page. Do you know if this is just like a movie that Netflix picked up or?
Yeah, that I'm not sure of. Of course, I mean this was that era where Netflix was really starting to pump out original movies. I just know that one of the co-writers uh, had previously written a book, so that they're adapting here, and
Okay.
I don't know anything about a 2011, say more recent book or recent at the time, and coincidentally, completely did this on accident. Do you know what the title of this book was? Because the book was not titled Malevolent.
No.
The title of the book is Hush. I did not do this on purpose,
Sure.
but we got kind of a thematic double feature here. And given some of the subject matter and the twists later, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see why the title of this was Hush one time. And my theory is because, in my opinion, Malevolent kind of a generic title. Uh, I assume Netflix, when they picked this up, was like, "No, you're changing this title because we just did a movie
Yeah.
a couple years ago titled Hush." I guarantee that's why this has a different title.
So we should also mention that this writer directed and wrote the 30 Days of Night sequel, which I haven't
Yeah,
seen.
the other writer did. Yeah,
Yes. And was the writer of The Strangers Pray at Night, which was Jarrett's last request. He was just really like this writer.
yeah, and 2018, same year, Strangers Pray at Night,
It's true.
closely connected.
But obviously, this is a very like classic setup. You kind of have these morally ambiguous characters. Um, I think I think one of the problems that this movie runs into is other than Florence Pugh, I don't find any of them particularly likable or dislikable. They're kind of there. I felt nothing. Spoilers later when they die.
Yeah, that's fair. It's tricky because her brother is the most scummy of the group. He's the most insincere and in this for entirely selfish and reasons put up on by himself. And then I don't know. I think the camera guy is likable enough, but everyone's supporting. I think you could have fleshed out a little more.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious how I would have reacted to this if I had seen this when it was new, as opposed to seeing this now, being so familiar with Florence Pugh. But I would say she is the highlight of the movie for me. I think she really
Yes,
cares and makes this character very immediately likable and sympathetic.
she brings a strength to the final girl that you really need. To
Mhm.
compare this to a movie that we did last week, Texas Chainsaw the Massacre, the beginning, which has a final girl that's kind of just there to recreate iconic shots. Uh,
Yes.
I actually was rooting for this character, and I was
Yeah,
happy
me
that
too.
she survived. And it also helps that it's more of a happy ending with an asterisk. Like,
Yes, bittersweet, you could say.
yes, that's the word I'm looking for. I honestly wish she would do more horror movies, but I feel like at this point she's too big of an actress.
Maybe. I mean, she's also in a fortunate position that she could kind of just do whatever she wants. It'll be really interesting to see, like, after Avengers Secret Wars, if she sticks around with Marvel or not, because like she doesn't have to.
Yeah,
She's in enough big movies now.
that's true.
I would like her to stick around.
She's the best Black Widow we've had.
She's great.
And unlike some Black Widows, she can do an accent.
Oh, I mean that's true, but oh, But I do like that the movie tells us right off the bat that yeah, they're gaming these people. This isn't
Hmm.
legit. And I think that's just given the premise, that's why we made this a period piece, because I feel like if you set this in modern day, you'd have more skeptical
I don't know, man.
people.
There's Ghost Hunter shows that have ran for like 40 seasons.
That's true.
I didn't think about this until just now, but if I had to compare this to another movie, I'd almost compare it to Alien Romulus, which also has a bunch of characters that are doing like morally ambiguous things, but then they run into something worse than them. And I think that movie handles it a lot better. Not all
That's
those
fair.
characters are fleshed out, but the ones that are matter, I'm invested in.
Well, that's definitely a Fede Alvarez staple at this point. I haven't seen
Yes.
Don't Breathe yet, but I've heard that's also basically what that is.
Uh, yeah, I would be well, I would be down to do those. I found the controversy around two to be really funny. Because people were just mad that they made the bad guy from the first one the good guy. Like we've never done that before in horror.
Yeah, it just all comes down to execution.
How do you feel about the like brief found footage moments where like it shifts to like a handheld? I don't I don't know if you need that here. Not if you're gonna just use it like twice throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, it's something you could have done more with.
So it feels like at some point they had an idea of maybe doing more of a found footage, like an Outlast thing, but then they either I don't know if that I assume that would have to be cheaper than making a traditional film, but it feels like a leftover idea from maybe a
Mm.
different previous write or something.
And I will say, I think I'm more into this type of genre than you are. I like an old
Probably.
fashioned spooky ghost story, and this does uh take a kind of a switch in the back half that I liked.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, as far as the supernatural elements of it go, I think the direction this movie, for the most part, is fine. Like it's competent. There's a few standout moments for me, and it's not fair to compare this movie to movies that didn't exist yet. But what I was thinking of, what I was reminded of while watching this, just tonally in terms of the subject matter, is it reminded me a bit of Talk to Me, Bring Her Back,
Mm.
especially Talk to Me. And those movies have a lot more creativity behind the camera and are a little more inventive with the premise. So those I think just kind of take the baseline idea and kind of run with it a little more than this does.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we'll talk about it more when we get into the back half when they start to throw some of the ideas of the film. But I feel like they throw a bunch of stuff up in the air and then don't know how to catch all of it. Like the whole crux of the film is that maybe their mom had these powers and it drove her crazy. But then
Mhm.
I don't know what how is that supposed to parallel with Florence Pugh's character? Because like they kind of bring up that she has those same powers and maybe she's going crazy too. But like I feel like there should be a through line there that, and maybe I'm just not seeing it, but it feels like that's just an idea. And then they go, well, it's there. We're not going to do anything with it, but it's there.
Yeah, it
Because like
feels like just more of a conceit than anything.
the brother has it too, and like he's trying to suppress it with like drugs and music. It feels like there should be a three-way comparison there, but there's just not. Oh my god,
It's
that's the spookiest thing in
spooky,
the movie.
spooky jump scares scare me.
It's true. To compare it to another Flanagan thing, just because we're watching a Flanagan thing tonight, the thing with her powers, I feel like should have been kind of like Nell. I think is it Nell in Hill House. Like you could have really done some commentary on like mental health and I can't
Mhm.
remember which sibling it is. The one that turns out to be the ghost that's haunting herself.
yeah, that's Nell. I wasn't sure if you were talking about Nell or Theo, because Theo
Yeah, Theo
has
also
like
has,
the most overt powers.
even with Theo, like I feel like that's rife for some kind of either commentary or saying something on mental health. And
Hmm.
but I guess I will commend the movie. Is it also doesn't swing that high, so it doesn't miss anything either.
Well, and as we alluded to, I think the ending is kind of ambiguous.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the actor playing the camera guy, Elliot, is he's played by Scott Chambers, who I immediately recognized, but wasn't sure what I knew him from.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out after this movie, he would go on to play Christopher Robin in Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2.
Oh, yay!
So good job.
Oh,
He's better. He's better than the first guy in the first movie because that was a recast.
it's true.
And
He's
you know what? I
also
think he's a good
in
actor.
Doctor Jekyll.
The more you know.
Yes, I didn't watch that one. One of his first movies is called "You Want Me to Kill Him," but there's no spaces, and it's a U instead of the YOU and two and the number two instead of spelling it out. And trying to read that nearly gave me an aneurysm. But no, I think he's a fine actor. It's also kind of funny just because I know her as more of a blonde now to see Florence Pugh as more of a dark haired woman in this.
Yeah. Well, her hair is kind of red, so so that's also made me think like, huh, they like alternate reality where maybe she could have been Natasha
Yeah,
instead of Yelena.
I think she could have been if those movies had just come out later.
Yeah.
When we reboot, just change her name to Natasha.
Well, they'll go the Smallville route because obviously the best way to honor your dead sibling is just to take their name and
Of
identity.
course, of course. And we should mention she hasn't shown up yet, but the woman that hires them that turns out to be the
Mhm.
villain of the film. It looks like she's been in a lot of stuff. She's in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Uh, she's a fighter pilot
Nice.
in Star Wars: The Phantom Menace.
Oh, she's that lady. That's awesome.
Yeah. There's something else. Oh, she's gonna be in that new Tomb Raider show.
Hmm.
I really want that to be good.
We shall see.
How many
Yeah.
fucking
So
Bridget Jones movies can they make?
all of them. That's how many.
Oh, and she's Mrs. Quickly in Nanny McPhee. I never saw that movie, but I remember seeing ads like everywhere. I also because we mentioned earlier, that it's revealed that the brother's gonna have the same kind of powers. It would have been kind of cool to parallel how they deal with it. Like she kind of just ignores it and denies it. He is actively trying to make it go away.
Yeah, you were talking about that earlier, and that is a question I have. What I'm unclear on, because with her, it seems to me that like she's very recently started
Mm-hmm.
having these visions, probably even after they've started their sham
Hmm.
ghost hunting side job. But with him, like, I can't tell, or I'm not sure if this is something he's been aware of like for a while, or if they're both getting these visions at the same time. Some of that's a little unclear to me.
Hmm. Well, and like, because they obviously setting it up to be a genetic thing. How does that
Mhm.
work?
Yeah, I mean that is the trope. We do see that a lot, with, like the sixth sense, second sight thing. Often, I just take it for granted and assume that that's just a common folklore thing. That yeah, can get passed down in a family line.
Hmm.
But yeah, we don't get into the minutia of it too much.
So I can't keep track of who's who, but Samantha Harlow in this movie is one of the main characters in Gen V for the Boys spinoff.
No.
And see, it seems like this because she comes home to her grandfather, and it seems like this where it seems like it's gonna be more about her family, her fucked up family, and then it's not really after this, other than just like her brother is dragging her into shit.
Yeah, because what we're told is her their mother, had these visions and couldn't handle it, and ended up going crazy and taking her own life.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's just with our protagonist, the question is just, well, is she gonna go down the same path as her mom, or will she figure out how to handle it? And yeah, we just don't do a ton with that
Mm-hmm.
baseline idea.
No, because I don't know who the grandfather is here, the actor, but he's incredible in this scene.
He's great. I do know this actor. He was on the Game of Thrones. He was also Santa Claus in the first Narnia movie, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. If you remember the
I don't
scene with
remember
Santa
Santa Claus
Claus,
being
he's
in
that.
that.
Yeah,
Oh wow.
yeah. He's not called. He's referred to as like Father Christmas or something. He's not literally called, but like you
Mm-hmm.
look at him, and you're like, yeah, that's fucking Santa.
Yeah,
uh,
I should rewatch that. I loved that movie as a kid.
Me too.
One thing I will give this movie, I love the '80s England aesthetic, and I kind of
Yeah,
wish that was what we would did for like a Hellraiser reboot instead of making it modern day
sure.
America. So I also think you could have maybe put a little more effort into it. There are times where I forget this is an '80s period piece.
That's fair. I mean, I
Oh,
could let that
I got
slide.
an ad
Oh my god. Okay. Okay. What timestamp?
play. Anyway, continue.
But we've talked about recently about how I feel like in recent years we are seeing more of a predominance in period piece horror, and a major factor for that being just yeah, we don't want to deal with cell phones and
Mm-hmm.
modern technology. Modern surveillance is a big thing, so it's easier to just go fine, just set in the '80s, and I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Period pieces are cool.
Malevolent. It looks like only had a 300,000 pound budget. I don't know what that is in like real money, but
It sounds very little.
yes.
Well, and like I said, I like these kinds of low key ghost movies. I appreciate. I mean, we had a jump scare up top, but there aren't excessive jump scares in this. It is very low key and old school for the most part, and I appreciate that. But of course, mileage will vary. This
Yes.
style of horror movie isn't for everyone. I'll also say, and again, totally fine that Jareth requested this. Totally fine with doing this now. But I also think this movie is best suited for October spooky season. That is the ideal setting for watching this kind of movie. Where you're just going through a bunch of horror movies. You're in more of that mood and spirit. That because sometimes you'll have a movie like I don't know, like forget like Alien or whatever that you could watch any time of year and have and be fine. Then there are other movies where it's like, no, this is like squarely a spooky season reserve movie, and I think this is one of those. If
That
you're
is
into this
too.
type
It's too spooky.
of movie. And then we get the spooky investigation scene. And this is one of those familiar premises that's like, yeah, I know I've seen this before, but now I'm struggling to come up with like a specific example. But it's like you have a team who's doing something kind of shady. We see what their routine is, and now they're gonna bite off more than they can chew. And
I
because I like the setup here where she's like, yeah, what happened here was like really fucked up, and I don't want to deal with this.
Yeah. Not to rewrite the movie, but I think it might have almost been cooler if like they were frauds and then doing the research and they awaken like an actual evil spirit. Or maybe just make a movie about real ghost hunters and they just get in over the movie I'll compare it to that's interesting that we watched this now is I just watched the movie Undertone, which is kind of that where two podcasters start listening to these tapes and crazy shit starts happening and like they get in over their heads. I kind of wish this movie had been more structured like that with an actual mystery and ghosts. There is a mystery here, but I feel like
Mhm.
they kind of just don't play with it and then you get a twist and that's the mystery.
To give the movie credit, I think there is an underlying theme about dishonesty and where there are overt parallels with our heroes and our twist
You know,
villain
that's
is that they're all liars. So
no,
that's
you're
something they have in
right.
common.
I hadn't even thought about that. I got so focused on a different read. That's potentially interesting.
Yeah, my takeaway from this movie is I felt, and again, I'm curious how this compares to the book. I just felt like this could have used another draft or two
Mm-hmm.
to kind of do some tweaking
Little
and ironing
tweaks.
out. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm criticizing it, but it's not the worst thing ever. It's fine.
No, 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 no.
Solid 90-minute movie.
Yeah,
Movie. I will take that over the for 2.5 hour slogs that you get sometimes nowadays.
absolutely. And like I said, I don't mean to sound like demeaning or whatever, but like sometimes there are movies like I said earlier, like when you're doing like just a marathon of a bunch of spooky movies in October, that this is something that stood out to me that would just be best like for those kinds of conditions.
This whole setup with her and her brother, I feel like is also I've seen this 100 times, but now I can't tell
Sure.
you where.
I know.
Well,
And like I said,
interestingly enough, because I mentioned Hellraiser, it's kind of the reverse, but Hellraiser, the remake, has a similar setup where you have a brother trying to take care of his drug addict. And Evil Dead 2013.
yeah. Well, Hellraiser more so just because there is like the criminal element with them. You could compare it to this.
This was her rehearsal tape for Midsummer, by the way.
Yay.
Because she starts out, she's kind of doing that same thing she does in Midsummer.
Is this the scene that plays like the 180s song they could afford?
Yes.
And very similar to an Evil Dead 2013, main brother has a blonde girlfriend who is the most nothing character in the movie.
No, when she gets attacked later, I didn't know if I missed something because he just finds her and she's hurt.
Yeah, and that probably plays better on a second viewing just because she is out of the movie for a little while and you're not thinking about her, and then we like have to look for her, and then we reveal later like the full picture of what happened to her.
Ish.
Spooky ghosts scare me.
They're spooky. Need to call the Ghostbusters.
Well, and like I said, I like the tone of this movie. I like the vibe, and I think the direction is competent enough. There are just movies like Talk to Me, Bring Her Back that have similar things. Like those directors do have a lot more energy and originality to them that really make them stand out. Whereas something like this, I think, is more just fine.
Hmm. Well, and with something like that, both of those I think have more of an emotional hook to them.
Yeah,
So even if you're not scared, you have something that you can get invested in. And I think at the end of the day, that's ultimately what this movie is missing, is that emotional hook. You get a little bit at
sure.
the end when she's begging for her
Yeah, there's a
brother,
little bit.
but
Yeah.
I I kind of wish that relationship was the front of the film. Instead, it just kind of gets brought up here and there.
That's fair. And again, the highlight of the movie for me is Florence
Yes,
Pugh.
she's so good.
I think she's every time she's on screen, like she's really selling it. And not that they literally say it, but this premise it also has the vibe of like this is our last job. It's just one last time we're doing this, and then never again. And then whoops, this is the one that goes bad.
We love to see it.
And like I said, when this movie came out, definitely missed me. I hadn't heard of
Hmm.
this until it was requested, but I had seen Hush pretty shortly after it came out. I feel like there was a time there where like every year Netflix is putting out a couple of horror movies, and do they still do that? I don't know, like that because there's a couple I missed. Gerald's Game, of course, being another Flanagan one.
I feel
So
like,
you've seen that.
especially in the last half of the 2010s, it was mostly Flanagan's output that like was kind of drawing attention to their horror sub offerings. But now that he's gone off to like net to Amazon, I just don't feel like they've got anything. Well, and
Yeah.
now all they want to put out is these like $300 million blockbusters that nobody's ever asked for. Looking at you, Electric State.
Well, we did get Texas Chainsaw 2022.
Are you ready to cover that one?
No, I mean yes.
No.
And this also might have been the same year as Haunting of Hill House. Was that 2018?
Mm, it was. Which maybe
And
this isn't
also again,
fair. Unfortunately, kind of makes this look a little worse because you come out the same year as a not the same, but like similar
it has a lot of
ideas.
yeah, a lot
And
of the
it's
same
so
themes
much
and
better.
tone. Yeah, and that took the world like that was a phenomenon when that came out.
Hmm.
Like Haunting of Hill House was the type of success that like got eyes on it from people who don't typically watch horror.
Yeah,
It was just binge event television for a minute there.
I remember everybody was talking about it.
Of course, Stranger Things was the biggest example of that. Just a couple years prior.
Yeah. Well, and it helped that I think that came out between Stranger Things seasons.
Yeah, probably. Creepy old ladies scare me. John, your audio is coming through a little. And like you said, this actress is just one of those character actors I didn't immediately recognize, but I was sure I had seen her in stuff before. Like you said, she's been in a million things. I did not recognize her for Phantom Menace, so that's awesome.
She's the
And
best character in that movie.
but she gives a very good performance, and I think
So let me ask you
subdued
this:
here in the right ways.
the ultimate reveal is that she killed them.
Yes.
If she knows that she's responsible for this, why is she calling people in that could potentially figure this out?
So it's because she's actually being haunted. She's being truthful when she says, like, I hear their screams. I want somebody to
But wouldn't you
make
still
them go away.
risk? But you'd still risk getting caught, no?
That's fair. Again, they play it vague because obviously we see what she does to these young people later. So like she does have ulterior motives to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they play that kind of ambiguous because it does seem like, okay, plan A, I want people to make my fucking ghost children go away. Plan B, oh, they're frauds. Well, now I'm just gonna kidnap you and you're my new children now. And I think she did do her research on these people. Like Florence Pugh's character in particular, I think she does like and wants to fill that daughter role. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah. Now, did you call the twist? Did you see that
No.
coming? Yeah. When we get the backstory of her foster children, that their mouths were sewn shut and murdered and all that, I called it pretty early. I was like, she probably did it. So the twist didn't surprise me, but I was fine that that's the direction it went. I think there are some clunky third act issues, and where I can see where you're coming from is it feels like maybe you could have gone either you could have gone further in the direction of, oh no, there's no supernatural element, this is just like a slasher movie now, or you could have gone further with the supernatural stuff. Instead you have kind of a middle ground that I can see you finding a little half baked or
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that I think that's the
clunky.
ultimate. The my ultimate issue is just they throw a bunch of stuff up in the air and then all of it just kind of stays in the air, and I don't know at the end of the day what the theme or idea of the film is. It's a solid like story with a fun
Mhm.
twist, but I think if Florence Pugh hadn't been in this movie, it would have just kind of came and went for me.
That's fair. And like I said, I think I vibed with it more, but where I could see you're coming from is the supernatural element in particular. You could have just it feels very first drafty. Like you could have just done a little more with it. Uh, which is always a risk because on the other hand, I appreciate that this movie like doesn't go off the rails. Like I like that it's more subdued
Well, how cool would it
and
have been, just going off of your idea, if there was no supernatural element and her ultimate goal was just to lure more people in because she thinks she's been haunted, and you can compare that with the visions that the protagonist is getting, and it's like a metaphor for mental health or something like that.
yeah, I mean that could have worked if that was your angle.
She's got red on her.
Got red on you. And I mean, nosebleeds always signal something supernatural.
Or a brain tumor.
Yeah. That was the original series finale was Stranger Things. Is that whole show is just an 11's head.
I mean, unironically, I would have preferred that to what we got. That final season commentary is gonna be fascinating.
Yeah. Whenever we do that, I do need to watch that documentary. Have you watched that yet about the
No,
making of
because I
the
saw that
finale?
I saw that whole thing with like them getting caught with Chat GPT open on their computers. Like, yep, that explains everything. I'm good.
I've heard it's like okay, so I need to watch it for myself, but I heard that like the Duffers had no like say on it, like that because I didn't watch in the first place because I thought, oh, this is just gonna be a fluff piece, talking about how great the show was and how happy and everything was great. But I've heard it's actually like super insightful on like
Mm.
what maybe went wrong and like
No,
I've heard it's very fly on the wall.
some of the stuff that I've heard about coming out of that documentary, I'm just like, well, no wonder none of you knew what you were doing.
Yeah, it's like, and the conspiracy theory I heard was like maybe Netflix put that out just to make the Duffers look bad since they left.
My favorite Stranger Things conspiracy theory is the whole fandom deluding itself into thinking there's going to be a ninth episode a month later.
I was I'm so glad I didn't get sucked into that and didn't follow that. People
Unfortunately,
are
I kind of
fucking
did,
nuts.
but it was like a morbid fascination. Because here's the thing, when they spell it out, it kind of makes sense. But then when you separate yourself and think about it, it's like, oh, it's just because of like lazy set design.
That's how they get you, John.
I know. But no, I wouldn't mind doing that after that box set comes out.
Yeah, I figured it'll probably be sometime this summer. We'll get the final season done. Oh my god.
That Tales from '85 came out. I ain't watching that.
Yeah, I'm not watching that.
I think it was Variety like pour that show a new one.
I saw like two different reviews come out. One was like Stranger Things is back. It's better than it's been in years. Another one was like this is the most soulless piece of garbage ever made. I'm like, I don't fucking know what to believe.
So my problem with that is all the voice actors are just like Timu versions of the characters, and it's set
No.
in between 2 and 3, so like nothing of substance can happen.
I mean, it just feels like supplemental material, which is fine. It just feels like this harmless little side thing that should have come out like 3 years ago. That's the
That's the other thing is
worst
that
part of it.
final season left such a bad taste in my mouth. I don't want to watch your animated spin-off that's
Yeah,
not gonna.
no interest.
Yeah.
And we'll have plenty to say about it when we get to those commentaries. Like I didn't hate the final season. There was stuff I liked in it. But
I
it
liked
is my
the
least
first
favorite.
half or
The first like four
the
episodes
first
were
like
good.
4 episodes and all the stuff with Steve and Dustin in 5 and 6. We'll talk about it, but the finale is just they tried nothing and somehow they still failed.
Yeah, it's an interesting case study in making like the safest, most crowd pleasing thing possible that pleased nobody.
Yeah. No, because I'm watching,
uh,
I'm like, who is this for? You did
yeah.
nothing.
Now, where we were on the same page was like all my problems with that finale were basically were mostly in the first half. The back half epilogue stuff I still liked. I that was the good stuff in the episode for me.
Yes. I have
Um,
a couple of issues, but
sure, but yeah, the main plot itself was a mess, and yeah.
what are next?
Anyway, sorry to get sidetracked on Stranger
Yeah.
Things.
I
uh,
will. Last thing
I,
I will say, I will give it this. I don't think Stranger Things will be a Game of Thrones where the finale is so bad that it retroactively like nobody cares about the franchise outside of that. I don't think it will be that. I think it will be remembered as yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, where Stranger Things differs from Game of Thrones is with Stranger Things, like there are two camps. There's the camp who watch the whole thing that will mostly say it was a rocky road. It wasn't perfect, but we enjoyed it. And then there's the camp that says, "Oh, only the first season was good. Don't watch anything after." And I don't think the final season changed either of those camps.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not like for better or worse. I don't think the final season changed
Well, yeah,
the
that's
consensus
what
of the
happens
show.
when you try nothing. You swing for nothing. So anyway, these
Yeah.
two,
No, I think they have good chemistry. I like these are
yeah.
the two again, it helps that one of those
So
Florence Pugh, but I think
I
they're both likable.
I had like a moment watching this. So there's a scene, I think it might be here or maybe we talked over it, but it cuts from two people date kissing to the two siblings, and for whatever
Oh,
reason, I got confused and thought they were the same people, and I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Wait a minute,
well, where
what?"
we're going. It's hard to direct these kinds of movies
Ad
because okay, because there are a couple more.
play. It also doesn't help that this movie has the most modern day lighting of any modern day streaming movie. There are scenes later
I,
on in the dark. I couldn't see what the fuck was happening.
I didn't have that problem as badly as you did. Only a couple moments.
We'll see if it's better on my TV because I watch this on my computer. I need Mike from Red Letter Media to watch this movie.
And I do think they do a good job with the contrast and how they're interacting in this scene versus when they're with the family in the opening. Because with the family in the opening, you understand like these are just grieving people who just want closure and they're willing to, you know, go along with this and are just taking everything they're just taking their word for it. As opposed to this lady who knows there are real fucking ghost children in her house. So the way she's like kind of questioning everything and interacting with these people, I think is authentic and believable. Where she's asking questions, you can tell the brother's not really prepped for her, and he's like, "Oh fuck, I have to go off script."
Yeah.
And I appreciated that. I appreciated how quickly she catches on to it. It's like, yeah, you guys are bullshitters.
I I want Rob Zombie's Malevolent. That would be beautiful.
Rob Zombie's Haunting of Hill House.
Yeah. Well, that's basically Lords of Salem, I think it's that movie.
Mm.
Rob Zombie, for whatever reason, got in an era where he decided he was going to be the next like Stanley Kubrick and make real like psychological horror films. But he's Rob Zombie. Lords of Salem is awful. Although seeing Sherry Zombie in Dreads was hilarious. Uh, I'll save that for the. Oh my god, slow walking through an attic.
Don't follow the spooky ghost children.
Don't read from the book. Florence Pugh was in a movie recently with Andrew Garfield. I still need to watch.
Oh yeah, me too.
She has a speech in that movie about not wanting to just be somebody's dead fucking mom. Because I guess at some point in that movie, there's like a subplot with her getting cancer. And I saw an edit to that the other day of like using that as Lily Potter dialogue, and I was like, oh, that's sad.
Oh,
Who sings for the dead only? You, Robert. Who watches The Watchmen?
oh my god.
You know, I never did watch part two of that animated movie.
Oh, are those on HBO Max? I don't know.
Probably.
They probably were for a minute, but after they gutted all their animated stuff, who knows?
They're probably on Tubi now. Which
Yeah.
honestly probably where they just belong. Part one was bad.
Oh.
She's going off script. Don't do that.
And to your question earlier about why hire these people if they could figure out like what you did, I think she did say earlier, don't go to
Oh,
the
okay.
like. So they are going somewhere
That
they
they
were told not
shouldn't.
to.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, because that's where the ghost children are leading her. Turn back.
What this really needs is a Ash Williams.
Yes. I mean, any ghost possession movie, all of them would be fixed with Ash Williams.
It's true.
Ash Williams in The Exorcist. He just walks in and shoots Reagan, and chops off her head. It's like, there, I did it. Problem solved. Ow. I like that gag. That the camera got caught and it's swinging like as he sits up, it hits him in the face. That's a good bit.
Yeesh.
I call this like my worst nightmare, but it's like a top 10 thing. I don't want to fall through the floorboards somewhere.
Uh, so I will say, as a child, I thought that was more of a problem, because I watched Jumanji a lot, and there's that scene where the floor turns into poorly rendered quicksand.
Yes. Yeah, quicksand in general is like one of the top 5 greatest fears when you're a kid.
Yeah,
I haven't run into it yet.
but no, falling is scary just because it always hurts.
Yep.
I'll never forget one time I was rushing to get to work, and my shoelace had come untied, and it tripped me up, and I fell from the. It's only a 2-step
Ow.
porch, but I fell over the porch steps onto the concrete parking, and
God damn.
yeah, that was not a fun day. I hobbled into work. Thankfully, I was at a call center, so I just sit down all day. But oh,
That's good.
that hurt like a bitch.
Ow, my ankle. I don't like spooky dolls.
I mean, of course.
Yeah, the second you see this, you see help written on the walls. That's when you get the fuck out of this house.
Yes.
You've seen 10 Cloverfield Lane, right?
Yes. That's quite good.
Great movie. This also reminded me of that scene when Mary Elizabeth Winstead, like, she goes when she finds the scratching on the window, like the
Mhm.
help get us out. It's like, oh fuck.
You're fucked.
I was really hoping John Goodman was the good guy in that. Like, yeah, he's a little creepy, but it's
I
fine.
unfortunately I knew ahead of time. I feel like they didn't even hide that in like the marketing that he was going to be the bad
No,
guy.
not really. Yeah, yeah. The only thing that was like ambiguous was if there was actually going to be alien sci-fi stuff or not. Which is the main thing people were split on at the time, but I think that stuff's fine. As we know, the best broken ankle story in history is Bruce Campbell on The Evil Dead.
That's just true.
You remember that, right?
Yes.
What was it? Was it like a long day and they just finished, or got a shot in like one take or something, and he was like, "Yes!" And then he jumped up, kicked his heels in the air, and then landed on ice. Am I thinking of the right thing?
I think
Like how
so.
like it's something where like he jumped up in the air and just landed on ice wrong and just shattered his ankle. One of the many injuries during the course of making that picture.
The injury occurred during a running scene near a graveyard, causing him to twist his ankle.
Okay, I might have been thinking of a separate thing, but yeah, like I said, there are many injuries on that movie.
Yes. Most of them were probably Bruce Campbell. We love to see it.
Yeah, and obviously they don't draw attention to it, but when they're down, like in the basement with their friend, they're trying to get out. Uh, I think that's probably when the other girl, Beth, was taken and had her mouth sewn shut. Because this is like that stretch of the movie where she's just absent.
That makes sense. I think that's a mistake though, because like you already got this character that's forgettable. I didn't even notice she wasn't in the scene in scenes until she showed up with her mouth sewn shut.
But I like this scene. This is a good don't bullshit a bullshitter scene where he's trying to go off script and she's like, "Nah, I know you're frauds."
Yeah.
And now she's monologuing.
We love a good monologue.
They just wouldn't be quiet.
Book accurate Petunia Dursley over here.
No kidding. But this is the where I think you need the Beth character who goes missing, because it is a way to keep our protagonists, like, why they're sticking around. It's not just we have this guy with a broken ankle, we have to get out of here, but now it's like, oh fuck, we have a friend missing that we need to find. We can't just leave. Don't follow the spooky voices.
Or follow the spooky voices and hope it ends quickly.
That's also fine. So one part of the twist that did confuse me, or one element of the plot I'm a little unclear on, is so the evil lady, the foster children were the ones who had their mouths sewn shut and were murdered, and her biological son Herman, he was like the one blamed for it and locked up.
Okay.
But then he's revealed to be in the movie later and is her main accomplice. So that I felt like I was missing something. Like, so was he like just let out recently? Because I thought the landlord guy was going to be on it, and then he gets taken out quick and is out of the movie. So that was something I had questions about.
Yeah, I feel like not, we talked about this needing another draft, but also, as much as I hate to say it, maybe needed a few more minutes to flesh out some of the
Sure.
villains. And here's another found footage section.
What is this? Resident Evil 7?
I wish.
I'm not saying they should have done this, but are you surprised that instead of Welcome to Raccoon City, that they didn't just make 7 as a movie? When the Anderson movies were done, because 7 was really big at the time.
Yes and no. The director of Welcome to Raccoon City seems to be a really big fan of the original trilogy. And as much as the problem with jumping straight to 7 is, while it is a soft reboot, it is still buried within Resident Evil lore. Like, I don't know. I feel like, and maybe it's just like my perception is skewed, but I wouldn't want them to skip to 7 because you're missing out on so
Sure.
much build up.
Hmm.
But and I do think I don't even think it was a bad idea to combine games. You can't combine 1 and 2. You need to combine two
Yeah.
and three,
Yeah.
or Oh my god. He's taking sugar pills.
Can't get enough of those sugar pills.
Another thing that they could have done here, wouldn't it have been interesting if part of what drove their mom to doing what they did is the visions, but also like tie it into something with this woman that killed these kids? Maybe like the mom investigated it or something.
Maybe.
Maybe that'd be going too far, but
Hmm. Yeah, so with the arc our protagonist has here, like with what we have, is it enough to say that just the main idea with her and her mom is just her mom like had these visions, had this power, couldn't handle it because right, she doesn't just take her own life. They say like she also, I think they say she also gouged out her eyes just to
mm-hmm.
not see this shit anymore. So is the idea of the ending that our protagonist is just able to live with it and accept it in a way her mom couldn't? Because, like you said, there's kind of a bittersweet feeling to the ending.
This makeup is really effective.
Yes. Yeah. What I liked about this twist, like this isn't the best comparison in the world, but it did feel like splicing, more traditional ghost story with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre type of movie, where
Yeah.
it's young people going to a house they shouldn't be going to and are gonna get horribly
And it was funny you
mutilated
mentioned
and
that too.
murdered
She's
by a
wearing a
crazy family.
similar. Florence Pugh is wearing like a similar shirt. It's not as high cut, but to Alexander Daddario's character, like with the black stripes.
Yeah, yeah, good call.
I would love to see her in a Texas Chainsaw movie.
She'd be great.
Or we'll do that'll be the spin off, the British Chainsaw Massacre.
Dude, personal space. Stop it. And the wheel is on the wrong side of the car. Everything's topsy turvy.
It's true. Well, so where so that's another question because they mentioned going back to London. Where is this?
Um, because I think I saw that somewhere in the description. Yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah, it's just somewhere out in the country. I don't know my
some
England geography.
some vague English country.
Yeah, we're in Scotland specifically.
Oh, hey, that's cool. I love Scotland.
I prefer the Irish.
They are better, objectively.
But we've all been here. You're trying to get away and
I
launch your
think
girlfriend out
this happened to
the
you last
windshield.
week.
Yeah. Well, one thing I wasn't clear on first viewing with the geography was like if we were still on the same property or not, or if we're out in the country. Because at the end of the movie, it feels like we're on the exact same road, but then like rando people come passing through, and that's how they save our heroines. So that was something I was unclear on. Was like when we're on property and are just on a country road. And oh no, it's the shovel maniac.
Oh my god, the camera's out. Yeah, see,
Static scary.
shit like this, this doesn't need to be here. Or it needs to be in the movie more.
That's fair.
She's mugging at the camera.
And she's gonna have a really gnarly looking head injury for the rest of the movie.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but that's not makeup. They actually took her out back when the cameras weren't rolling and beat the shit out of her.
Oh, okay.
So there is a really touching moment later when she sees her brother. I
Yes.
didn't realize he was dead.
Yeah.
And I don't think that scene like communicates that well enough that she's seeing his ghost. But it is a nice scene.
It is. I picked up on it because when he turns around, he doesn't have any scarring on his face.
Oh, I didn't even think to put that together.
This fucking her love interest though. Gotta give him credit. This dude has like a broken ankle. He's been hit in the head with a shovel, and he's gonna keep fighting for the rest of this movie. This guy's got some Ash Williams stamina.
He's working on it.
And I'll say, maybe to the movie's detriment, because he does have a little bit of plot armor.
Yeah.
Especially later, where I'm like, oh, he's fine, okay.
Well.
Yeah. This is the road I'm talking about, where do you see what I mean? Where, like, it's unclear if this is just a road or if, like, this is on the property.
Yeah.
Because I can't tell how far away she is from the mansion.
I love when Reddit will recommend me subreddits that I've never been to before. I just got recommended the Flash TV show subreddit, and the first thing I see is Iris hate is so forced. I'm like, I don't think so. I also love that there's a Morbius. The Morbius movie has a subreddit.
Of course, it's Morbin time.
And the first thing I saw there was somebody complaining about people being excited for Clayface, but complaining about the Sony movies.
That's funny.
It's like, Jesus Christ. No, I love the generalized subreddits because usually you get pretty good discussions there. If you go into a subreddit dedicated for one character, dear God. the subreddit dedicated to Snape is a cesspool.
Oh yeah, don't go there.
Don't go there. I'm not convinced those people read the books.
I do like this contrast. This is a little unusual for this type of ghost story, and maybe deliberate with the Texas Chainsaw comparisons. It is kind of refreshing that when we leave the spooky house, this whole movie's set in broad daylight.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of unusual, and I do like that contrast.
No, that's fun. That's also very like the first half of Texas Chainsaw. That movie doesn't really take place at night until the getting into the third act.
Yeah, and then the end of the movie, it's the next morning, and then it's daylight.
Well, really, that movie should have just been called Sally's No Good, Terrible Day.
Ow. Now we do learn here that our villain also had an abusive mother. again, maybe that's something we could have gone further with the parallels,
Ooh.
because
Yeah,
with
there's
our
like little
leads, like,
pieces.
yeah, because we're not really told that like our leads, like, that their mom was abusive. We don't really get to know what kind of mom she was before she went crazy. And that's something you could have gone further with.
Yeah.
To its credit, this movie did go a little further than what I was expecting, because there is a hard, like, some of the shit is fucked up.
Yeah. No,
Like I,
this is probably, this is gonna sound weird after we just agreed that this is fucked up. This is probably my favorite stuff in the movie because it's the first time that I feel like we really get any humanization of the protagonists. Her begging for her brother's life to be spared because that's all he's all she's got is
mhm,
great. Um, and I think that also makes that scene where he's a ghost hit that much harder.
yeah. Well, it's just the visual of getting your mouth sewn shut. Like, yeah, I don't like it. It's fucked up.
Uh, I anytime I see that, I can't stop, but I can't help but think of is it Saw 4 where the guy has his mouth sewn
Maybe,
shut and the
yeah,
other
yeah,
guy has his
yeah,
eyes sewn shut.
yeah. And just that visual,
Oh
of just
shit! I
opening
got
your
an ad.
mouth. Oh,
But
you
no,
reminded me of my girls. You're gonna be my child now.
you
No,
because I have to imagine if the mom got to the point where she takes her own life, she was at the very least lashing out. Um,
sure.
like there's another movie where there was something wrong with the mom, and it like made the kid's life miserable, and then the kid ends up kind of in the same position, and it's all about
I
her
mean,
trying to overcome that.
we mentioned earlier, Haunting of Hell House. You have that with Nell
Or
and her
yeah,
mom.
maybe that is what it is. God, this just makes me want to watch Hill House.
Yeah,
Oh, it's okay. It's not 1-to-1. But Percy Jackson, the villain of
okay.
Percy Jackson's backstory is that his mom tries out for the role of seer for the camp, but it's been cursed by Hades and it drives her insane. And she sees glimpses of what her son is going to become, and it basically like by doing that accidentally drives him towards the fate she doesn't want him to have. It's really good stuff.
Cool.
And you're like, I don't care, shut up.
I didn't say it.
Oh,
We'll start our Percy Jackson channel.
yay. I love Harry
Yeah,
Potter, but those first 5 Percy Jackson books I think are tighter. They're not constantly
it
retconning
might be.
themselves. Yeah, I'm still kind of having that with these basement scenes. It's a little, I need a little more light somewhere.
That's fair.
Not for realism, just so I can see.
And like the villain's son Herman, I feel like we could have done more with him. He just feels real
Mhm.
underdeveloped. Like he's a reveal very late in the movie, and there's just not enough built up with him.
Well, he should be the parallel to Florence Pugh, right? Where like they don't
Yeah,
want to be their parents.
yeah.
Instead, he's just the
And,
heavy.
like I said, I thought the groundskeeper was gonna be in on it because we see him earlier and he looks creepy, and then he's just taken out when they
Yeah,
hit him with the car in accident so quickly that he ends up being kind
that
of a nothing
head wound is
character.
crazy.
Yeah, it
Ah,
looks brutal.
don't look at me like
Ow,
that. That's scary.
that's your sister.
Have you ever seen that? I think it's a Folgers commercial that people meme on for like.
That's a classic.
Yeah.
Fun fact, I think it's the girl in that commercial. I think that's Jeffrey Combs's daughter.
Oh,
I need to look into that, but that's definitely a thing I heard at some
I
point.
always find it funny. To tie this back, the writer of Naruto has said multiple times that Naruto and Sasuke's relationship is based on him and his brother. And then you watch and you're like, what kind of relationship did you two have? There is a scene where Naruto straight up says, "If I can't save you, we will die together, and in the afterlife, we will be free of our burdens." I'm like, what the fuck? She's so good in this scene.
Yeah, I don't need to call her names though. She said the thing. She said, "Hush now."
Oh no, this is Malevolent.
Yeah, this is my final. This is my final like main criticism, and what I was
Mm-hmm.
referring to earlier with some third act issues, and where I think this could have used another rewrite or two.
Mm-hmm.
Where this third act is a little clunky to me is like you have the car wreck, you have Florence Pugh slowly walk to the house, finds them torturing her brother, and then they knock her out. Same thing happens, and then other guy, her friend, slowly walks back to their house, finds them torturing Florence Pugh. It's very repetitive
Mm-hmm.
here, where it's like, it's just kind of the same thing happens a couple of times, and there could have been a way to spice it up a little more. Um,
Yeah.
Also, again, mad props to this guy for making it back here on a broken ankle
He
and a head
yeah.
wound. But it's so frustrating when he's just like, "Hey," like he doesn't attack them. It's just like, dude, come
He
on.
really is the I forget his name, the blonde guy from Evil Dead 2013.
Yeah,
That is like
that's a
my
good
gold
comparison.
standard for dear God, how are you alive? I love that in that movie he reads from the book and then for the next 90 minutes gets punished for it.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, this is all his fault. So he does get the brunt of it. Ow.
Oof.
Yeah, and again, like we're doing something here. The villain loses her son, our hero loses her brother. It's like, yeah, there's stuff we're doing.
Yeah.
At least she didn't get her whole mouth sewn shut. It was only a little bit. Yeah, this part confused me because that looks like a saw, and like she starts hitting him with it, but then he's fine. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. There's too many quick cuts here.
Yeah,
It's hard
and
to follow.
so the way like Florence Pugh like gets out of her restraints, it just kind of happens. Like there's nothing clever, there's nothing set up, there's not like a thing she has to get herself out of it. Like in a because there's just an example I thought of, like in Eli Roth's Thanksgiving. The big dinner table scene where everybody's tied up and the killer's there. The girl has the ring that has the blade in it that we set up earlier, so we see how she gets out. We don't have that any kind of setup and payoff for that here, so that's kind of awkward. And this is the biggest payoff you get for the ghost kids is just them screaming, um, which distracts the villain. Like it's fine, it just feels very first drafty. Like okay, it's something, but you could have done a little more here.
And I think I need them to expand on the mom thing because it feels like they want this to be a sympathetic person where she's just kind of following in her mother's footsteps, and like there's something wrong with her, but I don't know what it is that's wrong with her. What does she get out of this?
Yeah, definitely could have been fleshed out more, but I don't
I think
think the
she's dead.
movie. Yeah, yeah. I don't think the movie's trying to make me like her too much. Like she's still the villain. There's not a forced redemption. At least it's like no, she still needs to get
No,
put
when I
down.
say sympathetic, it's like you're still the
Yeah,
bad person doing bad things, but I can understand why you're doing these things. I don't understand why she's doing these things, which can also be fine. The next movie we're going to talk about has a villain that has no motivation, doesn't have a
yeah.
reason for doing what he's doing, and it's awesome.
He can't be
This,
reasoned with. He can't be
yeah,
bargained with.
literally, he
He
can't
doesn't
be
feel pity.
heard.
Thanks, Ghost Children. You kind of helped.
Yeah, they just kind of come off as a Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, well, the whole reason they're here is because the villain says she hears them scream. Their screams. She hears them, and I
You
feel like
hear
we
the
could have
lambs
done
scream, Clarice?
exactly. I feel like we could have done more with that throughout the movie
Yeah,
because the ending. I mean, it's also like it's very Telltale Heart. Being haunted by your mistakes, um, and your choices. So all that's fine. I just think you could have done more with it.
yeah. This just feels like we had one location to shoot on, so don't
Yeah.
think about this being the same place.
Yeah, we are somewhere back on the country road.
I do love a good survivor walk down the road shot.
Yeah, we don't talk about those enough, but you
Yeah,
see a lot of them, just all bloody and fucked up.
this is a great scene.
Yeah, this is a good moment. Yeah, she doesn't look good.
No, she does not.
Yeah, see, so because his face is all fine, that was the tell to me that
Okay.
yeah, he's a ghost.
No, that's fair. I didn't even think about that. There's like a piece of her forehead missing.
I know it looks rough.
Jesus.
Okay, bye.
That and I think that's part of what caught me off guard is because I wasn't thinking about that, but he acts like he doesn't know her.
Well, he just says I'm looking for Beth, and that's his girlfriend. But it's like he's a ghost like that. That's it's tropey, but I think it's fine. Ghosts are usually portrayed kind of aloof, not fully
Okay.
comprehending what. So
I
I
guess I just
was
don't
fine
see
with that.
that. Yeah, I guess I'm just not used to that in horror. Usually it's like they're stuck looking for they're stuck in their personalities and like mourning something.
And here we get the hero family, the Good Samaritans
Thank God they were
saving her
coming down this abandoned road.
apparently. But another movie again. Thought I've mentioned it earlier. Talk to Me. uh Spoiler alert for Talk to Me, but remember at the end when she's like in the afterlife walking around, like she sees her dad
Yeah.
walking, and because I at least my interpretation of that ending is that the girl in Talk to Me, like her dad is also dead, but
Mhm.
he's just walking around like not,
Well,
you
Talk
know.
to Me is a good example because all the ghosts in that remember their family and like have emotions. So so I guess that's more what I think of the ghost and the horror is like they are very emotional and
Mhm,
missing something.
sure.
He's just like, yeah, I'm looking for Beth. I don't know you. Bye.
Well, at least this guy made it.
Somehow,
And
somehow this guy has returned.
yeah, this is where I'm torn because while I appreciate a happy ending and couples getting together, it it also feels like a mistake to let him live because
Yeah.
this ending I think would hit harder if she was the last survivor, and it would make
He
this
doesn't
final line
had
hit.
anything.
Yeah, I mean I think he's fine. He's likable, but like this final line of her saying "I'm not alone" because she sees her brother, presumably.
Hmm.
Also, this is a plot hole because how do ghosts make shadows? It makes no
Oh,
sense.
bad movie.
but like I said, I like the ambiguity of it, and it's a
That
good
is a
final
good final
line. Just
shot. Yeah.
yeah, just I'm not alone.
He's
Um,
these
and
the credit font is
a
whack.
choice. But a final though, I'll say I think the you could interpret that the idea is like her mom couldn't handle the visions, literally tried to make them go away by cutting her eyes out, and maybe her daughter has just reached a level of acceptance that her mom
Mhm.
couldn't. Of just
Maybe you have
yeah,
to
my
go
ghost,
through that level of trauma.
maybe yeah, and now it's like okay, my ghost brother's with me, I can deal with it.
My issues aside, I feel like this needs a sequel to kind of flesh out some of those with what we have here. But I don't think we'll get that.
Yeah, they have a very under the radar, not super well known movie, but I'm glad I watched it for this. Thank you,
Yeah.
Jareth, for
Thank you,
recommending
Jareth,
it.
for recommending that.
Eh,
If you're watching after the fact, please consider hitting that like and subscribe, and we appreciate it.
See you.